All right. All right, folks. Back again. Back again. All right. No, I'm coming in late tonight. However, as you can see the thumbnail, it says Somalian arrest and threats. There's also been some fraud going on since around the pandemic time. And it's just gotten a little bit more tense in Minneapolis, Minnesota. So the folks in Minnesota are really having a hard time. And I'm going to jump into this video. This first one, it's about what this Somalian is saying to Donald Trump. He's sending out a message to Donald Trump, and I want you guys to hear it. Because when I heard it, I was like, this is kind of egregious. And why is he saying that? However, such is life, right? So let's jump into it. Let's bring that up.
My biggest fear in life is that this man may never witness our full takeover. Yes, he may never witness that. He already witnessed our partial takeover, our little success in America. And he is the reason actually I know that the community in America is thriving. He is how I know. It's like, he's how we measure our progress. If he doesn't tweet, somebody messed up. I know somebody fucked up the plan. If he tweet, I know we're doing the right things. Yes, that's how I know. So he's old and sick, I know. He may not witness our full takeover, but I promise you that his sons will witness. Just like him, we came to exist in this country. See? The land of free men, the land of opportunities. And we're here. Yes. And we're not leaving, actually. We're not going back. What do you mean go back? You should go back first. You see, if you come fast, you go fast. See? Just like you. Tell me how you own this land. Explain to the world how this land became your land. Tell the world.
Wow. So as you can see there,
My biggest fear in life is that this man may never.
as you can see there, let's mute this. As you can see there, he's sending out a threat to Trump, saying that his biggest regret is that Donald Trump, will not be around to witness the full takeover of America. And Americans in Minnesota are very upset because there have been a lot that's been happening, and it's not just the takeover of people migrating and moving into Minneapolis, Minnesota, but there have been other things happening, like fraud. And people are rightfully so very upset that this is happening and nothing is being done. So let's jump into another video so you can get more context to the conversation. Some of the videos I pulled up are a little bit aged by a few weeks, a few months, but this saga has been happening for some time and is just getting more heated and escalating to where things are happening. So as we continue in the video, you will see and you will understand as to why things are moving and progressing in the way they are. And it's turning out bad for a lot of people. All right, let me get that other video and get that ready. All right, so let's get this video up.
Let's talk about fraud in Minnesota. My name is Matt Sepik, and I'm a correspondent for NPR News based in Minneapolis, where I cover courts and legal affairs. You may just now be hearing about fraud in Minnesota, but I've been covering it for nearly 4 years. There are a lot of misconceptions, misinformation, and disinformation out there, so I'm going to break it down and give you a picture of what's really going on in Minnesota. Here's what we know, what we don't, and what comes next. When people talk about fraud in Minnesota, what are they referring to? The main criminal case uncovered hundreds of millions of dollars in pandemic-era fraud centered around the Twin Cities nonprofit Feeding Our Future. Back in January of 2022, with search warrants in hand, the FBI raided Feeding Our Future's offices and 24 other locations. That included the home of Amy Bach, its founder and executive director, where agents found a Gucci purse and a pile of cash. The searches also uncovered thousands of pages of documents. Federal prosecutors and forensic accountants spent the next 8 months sifting through it all. They also subpoenaed a lot of bank and email records. The following September, then U.S. Attorney Andy Luger announced charges against Bach and 46 other people.
The scheme that began with a simple idea in March of 2020 grew to become the largest pandemic fraud in the United States.
Wow.
By November of 2025, prosecutors would bring charges against 78 people. The majority are Somali American. A New York Times story about the case drew the attention of President Donald Trump, who used it to attack Democratic Governor Tim Walz. Trump also made racist comments about the Minnesota Somali community at a cabinet meeting.
They contribute nothing. I don't want them in our country, I'll be honest with you, okay? Somebody would say, oh, that's not politically correct. I don't care. I don't want them in our country. Their country is no good for a reason.
Which government programs did the fraudsters rip off? They targeted the Child and Adult Care Food Program and the Summer Food Service Program. Both provide meals to kids in low-income communities when school's not in session. The U.S. Department of Agriculture oversees the programs nationally. The Minnesota Department of Education is tasked with running them on the state level. Child care centers and after-school programs can get reimbursed for the cost of healthy meals and snacks that they serve to kids. But first, they have to sign up with a sponsor, often a nonprofit social service organization, and register as a meal distribution site. The food programs operated quietly for decades, and fraud wasn't a big concern. But that all changed in 2020 with the COVID pandemic. So how did the defendants steal hundreds of millions of dollars from these programs? When schools and child care centers closed during COVID, government regulators made major changes to the rules to keep kids from going hungry. For a time, restaurants were allowed to sign up as meal sites. The USDA also allowed food to be distributed to kids outside of educational programs. On top of that, state employees were working remotely, making oversight difficult. Put together, that opened the floodgates to fraud. Amy Bach and Feeding Our Future began signing up restaurants left and right. While they did distribute some food, it was far less than what they claimed in their fraudulent reimbursement request to the state. One of the biggest offenders was Safari Restaurant on Lake Street in Minneapolis. Its managers claim to have served nearly 4 million meals to children between April of 2020 and late 2021. Over that time, they stole $16 million from taxpayers.
Wow.
Safari owner Salim Saeed personally pocketed nearly $6 million, which he spent on cars and real estate, including a $1.2.
Wow, $6 million. That's a lot of money. I'm pretty sure that I know I heard that right. $6 million. Let's continue.
$2 million home in Plymouth, complete with an indoor basketball court. But that's just a small piece of the fraud scheme. Amy Bach and one of her assistants collected millions in kickbacks from Safari and other fake food site operators, and they couldn't sign up the sites fast enough. At Bach and Saeed's trial, prosecutors said the fraud spread like a cancer across Minnesota. Feeding Our Future was founded in 2017, and the next year it distributed around $307,000 in child nutrition program funds. By 2020, at the start of the pandemic, that figure jumped to nearly $43 million, and during the height of the scam in 2021, it peaked at nearly $200 million.
You know what's crazy? Many people, I think if my numbers are correct, there's a few hundred people that have been arrested and prosecuted for the PPE loan fraud, right? Because there were people that were going out there and applying for it, and they really had no business applying for it. There's one guy I learned about that he made one mistake and applied for the PPE loan, and because of that, he got, 3 years in prison over being greedy. He had a thriving business, making a decent amount of money, but he wanted to be greedy and ended up losing it all. Let's continue.
So how did this scheme come to light? This exponential growth did not go unnoticed by the Minnesota Department of Education, but despite regulators' concerns, it took a while to stop what the fraudsters started during the pandemic. At Bach's trial and the first Feeding Our Future trial in 2024, jurors heard key testimony from Emily Honer, the Director of Nutrition Program Services at MDE. She said she grew increasingly concerned about the large number of meal site applications from restaurants and found many had not been in business for very long. Honer also testified that the number of meals and the amount of money that the site operators requested were unusually high. In December of 2020, Feeding Our Future requested a single payment of $8 million for just a week's worth of meals. By comparison, Honer said the Minneapolis Public Schools, one of the state's largest districts, received $17 million in federal reimbursement for food in all of 2020. So despite these concerns, why did the taxpayer money continue to flow? MDE stopped allowing restaurants and for-profit businesses to participate as sites for serving meals, so many of the defendants just created nonprofits and kept on submitting phony claims. Some, including Empire Cuisine and Market in Shakopee, also operated fake food vendor companies for other sites. Honer also told jurors she got nowhere with the USDA's Inspector General, so in April of 2021, she contacted the FBI. Honer also notified Feeding Our Future and another nonprofit, Partners in Quality Care, that they were in, quote, serious deficiency. MDE also tried to stop payments to Feeding Our Future, but Bach sued the state and accused regulators of racism against the largely Somali American food site operators. A Ramsey County judge later told MDE that it did not have the authority to stop the payments. The meal site operators threw a party in 2021 to honor Bach and celebrate their temporary legal victory. They held the celebration at a Lake Street banquet hall that the owner paid for with money stolen from taxpayers. The cash didn't stop flowing until January of 2022, when the federal investigation became public with the FBI raids. So you're probably wondering how many people have been convicted in this case. Of the 78 defendants, 50 have pleaded guilty. And between the two trials, 7 others, including Amy Bach, were convicted. Jurors at the first trial in 2024 acquitted 2 of the defendants, but in an ironic twist, one of the acquitted, Saeed Farah, is in jail and awaiting sentencing for trying to bribe a juror at the end of the trial.
What?
Farah, 2 of his co-defendants, and 2 others admitted following the woman out of the courthouse and delivering a Hallmark gift bag with $120,000 in cash to her home in an ill-fated attempt to buy an acquittal. Judge Nancy Brazel dismissed the juror, and lawyers resumed their closing arguments. So far, Brazel has sentenced 8 of the defendants, including all 5 convicted at the 2024 trial. She handed lead defendant Abdiaziz Farah a 28-year prison term. Farah could face even more time when a different judge sentences him in the jury bribery case.
Isn't that so dumb? that you're on trial for fraud, and then amidst being on trial, you're going to commit fraud again. That is, it's not funny, but it's funny. It's not funny, but it's funny. I don't understand how a person will have that temerity to see a juror, follow the juror, and bribe the juror with money, committing yet another crime because you're bribing the juror, committing another fraud while being on trial for fraud. Miraculous.
Brazel gave the other defendants sentences ranging from 3.5 to 12 years. How much money did the defendants steal overall? Prosecutors say that Feeding Our Future and the 300 phony meal sites it sponsored siphoned around $250 million from taxpayers. But
What? No, I thought it was like $40 million. But $200 million? I'll be honest. It's my first time really looking into this. And I only looked into it because it's like it's just been in the news cycle. And I'm getting it in my feed. And I'm like, there's something there. So let me go see what it's about and react to it in real time. I didn't watch this video. The only video I actually reviewed, and not fully all the way through, is the video with the guy saying his only regret is that Trump won't be around to witness the full takeover of America. But let's continue.
fraud scheme is much larger than that. Partners in Quality Care, or Pixie, another nonprofit, also sponsored fraudulent meal sites, including many of those operated by the defendants in the first trial. No one from Pixie has been charged in the federal case. Around $60 million in assets have been recovered, but a lot is gone for good because many defendants laundered the money overseas, in some cases by buying real estate in Kenya. Another question we're hearing, is there evidence that any of the stolen money has wound up in the hands of foreign terrorist organizations? In late November, the conservative news site City Journal, largely citing unnamed sources, wrote that, quote, millions of dollars in stolen funds have been sent back to Somalia, where they ultimately landed in the hands of the terror group Al-Shabaab. But across 2 trials and thousands of pages of court documents, federal prosecutors have never linked any of the stolen taxpayer money to terrorism. Like fraudsters over time immemorial, the evidence showed that the Feeding Our Future defendants spent their ill-gotten gains on themselves, buying luxury cars, million-dollar homes, and taking lavish trips. Over the last decade and a half, the Minnesota U.S. Attorney's Office has been aggressive in prosecuting terrorism cases, most notably a group of young Somali American men who tried to join ISIS. While most of the fraud defendants are also Somali American, investigators have not presented any evidence of a connection between fraud and terrorist groups. U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent says his department is investigating whether any tax money has been diverted to Al-Shabaab. Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, a Democrat, said he welcomes the scrutiny but questions the reason and timing behind it. What other kinds of fraud are the feds investigating in Minnesota? Well, the Feeding Our Future case is continuing, and it's led to allegations of widespread fraud in other government programs. In September, prosecutors charged 8 people in Minnesota with stealing millions from the Medicaid Housing Stabilization Services Program, which was meant to help people with disabilities find and maintain housing. Those indictments followed extensive reporting by the TV station KARE 11. The feds also charged one of the Feeding Our Future defendants with stealing $14 million from an autism program. That investigation is continuing also. Critics of Democratic Governor Tim Walz have ripped his administration for not doing enough to oversee the programs and root out fraud. Walz is running for a 3rd term in 2026, and his Republican challengers are making fraud a major campaign issue. Minnesota's Department of Human Services shut down the Housing Stabilization Services program in October after temporary DHS Commissioner Shireen Gandhi said the agency had insufficient controls to stop bad actors from stealing money. Obviously, this is an ongoing, developing story. To stay up to date on the Feeding Our Future case and other fraud investigations, make sure you're tuning into NPR News.
All right. So, guys, as you can see there, that this is very tense for a lot of people, because when you commit fraud, when you rob people of their money, their hard-earned money, the tensions, the anger, the anxiety, it leaves a lot of people feeling disenchanted. They don't want to be associated with anything or do anything that will benefit any other organizations that are actually reputable, that actually mean good for the people, right? They're going to keep their money safely in their pockets. And year over year, centuries over centuries, there's always somebody committing some kind of fraud. I don't know. You guys probably remember Bernie Madoff. Bernie Madoff made off with a lot of people money, billions of dollars. Right? Billions of dollars. And every year, somebody comes out, a new program comes out. And when that new program comes out, somebody try to figure a way how they're going to scheme to get some of that money. I remember during the PPE era, someone called me up and said, "Hey, can you help me with this?" I'm like, "Help you with what?" Can I start a business and use your information? I'm like, "No." "Oh yeah, but I'll pay you. I'll pay you if you do it." I'm like, "No." So I wanted to see how far the person would go. So I said, "How much would you pay me?" And that person says, "I pay you $1,000. I said, "Oh, really? And how much will you be getting?" "Oh, $15,000. I said, "I don't want to be a part of it. I just wanted to see how much you were willing to pay me, to see how far you're willing to really go with it. But I don't want to be a part of it." And that person says, "Okay, well then I'll find somebody else." And I left it alone. People will risk themselves, risk their freedom for the money, for the almighty dollar. And eventually they'll get caught. Now, there are circumstances where someone won't necessarily and can't help a situation that they're in because they were put in that situation a long time ago. And when they were put in that situation, they were minors. And because of that, that situation turned out later on to be non-favorable for the person when they get older. But these are circumstances that are anecdotal, and it's case by case. But when somebody willing and purposefully go out and commit a fraud, something that they could really debate with themselves, not debate with themselves, but really be reasonable with themselves and say, you know what, there's a possibility that it may backfire. So if there's a 1% chance that it may backfire, I won't do it. Some people will say, well, there's a 99% chance that it won't backfire, and they'll do it. And you know what? the people that think that there's a 1% chance that it won't backfire, and that it will backfire, and a 99% chance that it won't backfire, usually that 1% gets them every time. But they'll still take the chance. Year after year, month after month, century after century. Not in that exact order, but you understand what I mean, right? Let's continue. Let's see what this video has to say. Like I say, I haven't watched the video, so I don't know. Let's continue.
Minnesota is reeling from a fraud scandal involving $1 billion siphoned from multiple federal programs during the COVID pandemic. In the past 3 years, 87 people have been charged, 61 convicted, most of Somali descent. Erica MacDonald was U.S. Attorney for the District of Minnesota during the first Trump administration. What happened in Minnesota where fraud was able to run rampant that it didn't in other states?
Lack of accountability, frankly. We knew that fraud occurs, and there's warning signs that come with it, and they were ignored in this case.
According to investigators, the schemes involved bogus receipts and invoices for meal programs, housing assistance, and behavioral health services, charging the state millions for services that were never provided.
I hear they ripped off Somalians, ripped off that state for billions of dollars.
The president lashed out at Minnesota's Somali community during Tuesday's cabinet meeting at the White House, saying he doesn't want them in the country and called them garbage.
I think it's a beautiful country.
Jamal Osman, who moved from Somalia to Minnesota when he was 14, is a naturalized U.S. citizen and a member of the Minneapolis City Council.
Anyone who looks like me are scared right now.
The fear comes as the Somali community here is bracing for a surge of ICE agents cracking down on migrants who've been issued final deportation orders. The president is pointing to the fraud cases in Minnesota, and we know that a majority of the suspects are of Somali descent. How is your community taking that?
Well, my community is upset. Yes, people commit crimes, but the entire community should not be blamed based on what some individuals did.
Some House Republicans announced in a news release they're going to launch their own investigation into the allegations of fraud in Minnesota.
He does have a point that an entire community should not be blamed for what one individual did or a few has done. So he's right. However, as human beings, we have a tendency that if a certain group of people look a certain way, dress a certain way, speak a certain way, that birds of a feather flock together. So think about it. If you see some guys with their pants sagging around their behinds, down, and their boxes are showing or their briefs are showing, and those group of people tend to be violent, you're going to associate somebody else which dressed the same way to be violent, and that person might not be violent, but the attire, the mannerism, or womanerisms will kind of cast a white shadow on that person or other people that are not like that. It's kind of like, I would say to my daughter, like, do not dress like these other women out there on the streets because they look like streetwalkers. And if you understand what a streetwalker is, right? And if you dress like them, you're going to be associated with them by people that don't dress like them and people that are more conservative and respectful. So if you dress a certain way, you speak a certain way, you look a certain way, you are going to be grouped in because that's how we as humans operate. We generalize. We see something happening by a group of people and we automatically assume they're all the same. Right? So, yes, he's right that it shouldn't cast a shadow on the entire group of Somalians. However, a good amount of that group are doing the wrong deeds, or committing fraud or crimes. So that white shadow is going to be cast over everybody. That blanket is going to be tossed over everybody. All right? Let's continue.
Including accusations that some of the money, the stolen money, ended up in the hands of terror groups overseas. I spoke with several federal investigators, though, and they say there is no evidence that happened. Instead, the fraudsters took that money and spent it on themselves. Things like houses, cars, diamonds, and so much more. Jonah Kaplan, CBS News, Minneapolis.
All right. Imagine. So let's do a recap on that. So as both news companies said, that even though they were touting that money might have ended up in the hands of terrorists, after further investigation, proof or evidence came back that no, that money did not end up in any terror organization. However, it will be said, because the powers that be want to spin that narrative, and if they spin that narrative and get to a certain threshold, they can enact certain things, certain actions, and when those decisions are made and those actions are put in place, it's hard to pull back from that once you have the people riled up and backing those actions. You get to go ahead and boom, things will start happening and you can't stop it. The cascade just keeps going. Hey, how can we prevent a president like Donald Trump to not issue any orders to go to war, invade, or say things that may not necessarily be true and speculative? Just don't do the actions. Just don't do the bad behaviors, and he won't have anything to say. And because of that grouped mentality, one bad apple spoiled a whole bunch. If that bad apple is not removed quickly, the whole bunch will become infested. And then what will happen? People will start saying, let's toss the whole tree out. And then we get cases like this video coming up. Right? So let's jump into it.
What you very clearly saw in that video was Mubashir, an American citizen, someone who has been here nearly his entire life, tackled, handcuffed, taken into custody for no reason at all, in clear violation of law and the Constitution of the United States, for simply walking down the street and looking like he's Somali. This should make every single person in America, whether you are a Democrat or Republican, livid. For those that believe in the work of the founding fathers, for those that believe in the maintenance and endurance of our republic, for those that want to stand up for justice, now's the time to be speaking out. Because I've got one basic question for everybody who's watching, and I'm looking for one basic answer. Are you an American citizen? If you are an American citizen, you yourself may be in the crosshairs of this administration, because in that sense, you're no different than Mubashir. This is a person that was leaving for his lunch break. This was a person who was out on the street doing literally nothing wrong. And what we saw by these ICE agents that clearly did not know what they were doing was violence and unwillingness to hear the simple truth, which he was repeating again and again, which is, I'm an American citizen. Those were the words that he was saying again and again. Those words, if nothing else, should give them a minute of pause so that they could find out, hey, who are you? What's your name? Are you a citizen or not? Have you done literally anything wrong at all other than existing in the world? The answer is, of course, no. And the reason we're here right now is, I believe, some directives were given from pretty high up that just can't be carried out. Directives like, I want you to go to Minneapolis and target the Somali community and deport a bunch of illegal or undocumented immigrants. You know, go to a factory or go to a meatpacking plant, find a bunch of Somalis that aren't undocumented, arrest them, detain them, and then deport them. But here's the thing. That meatpacking plant, that factory, you won't find a whole bunch of undocumented Somalis there. Why? Because, for the most part, they're all American citizens, like you and like me. They get up in the morning, they go to work like Mubashir, they drop their kids off at daycare, they go and work a long shift, they try to get through a long Minnesota winter together. These people are our community members, they are our neighbors, they have made Minneapolis a better place. Juxtapose that against what we're seeing from some of these federal agents right now. They don't know how to operate under the Constitution. They don't know how to keep people safe. They don't know how to catch criminals, because certainly Mubashir is not one. They don't even really know how to drive in the snow. It's pathetic. So right now, all of us are in a position to be speaking up. Our residents deserve better from the federal government. They deserve transparency. They deserve communication. What they don't deserve is headlocks in the middle of the winter in the snow, being detained and taken off somewhere, God knows where, without your family or your friends even knowing where you are. That's not what they deserve. So Minneapolis is not going to stand by this kind of crap. We won't stand by federal agents that are conducting this kind of pathetic operation where you're consistently against the law, against the Constitution, detaining American citizens. Again, basic law. Mubashir is going to tell a story in a second, and you'll hear directly from him. But what I'll say is there's a lot of other people in our city and around the country who've had very similar experiences. One of the most shocking things about watching this video is that it's not that shocking, because you turn on any news station, open up any paper, check out social media, and you see this happening all the time. We can't become accustomed to this. This cannot be normalized. We've read in history books about people being taken away and picked up for no reason at all. Let us not allow it here in our city. Let us not allow that here in our country. So we're calling for answers. We're demanding accountability. We want immediate changes on how these operations are being carried out. Minneapolis, to put it simply, we are anti-criminal. We're anti-gun violence. We're anti-rapist. We're anti-whatever it is that they want to create as sort of a facade for some of the stuff that they're doing. We will do everything possible to keep our residents safe. That's not what's happening now. They're talking about all these instances. That's not what's happening now. What is happening and what we're seeing is them illegally and unconstitutionally taking people like Mubashir. Not on our watch. That cannot happen in our city. Get out. They deserve the same rights as every other American because they are American citizens. They've got the full support of this city government behind them. And with that, I want to apologize to our neighbor here, Mubashir. I want to thank him for his courage in standing up and doing this here. I'm deeply concerned about what's going on, erupting in somebody getting hurt or killed. I'm deeply concerned about what's going on here, escalating, and somebody getting hurt or killed. Anybody getting hurt or killed. We cannot have that in our country. Mubashir.
Thanks, Mayor. And good afternoon, everybody. My name is...
He made a good point. He made a good point, and that could potentially happen. That could potentially happen because how the movements are going, people are scared, and somebody may react in a way that, or a manner that may not be the best decision making. I don't even know how to say that, because violent behavior could happen on either side. The ICE agents or the people that they're aggressively arresting and throwing them to the ground. So what if one day they threw someone to the ground? Like earlier I was reading an article, it popped up on my feed, of an ICE agent that was arrested. I don't remember which state. I think it was Boise, Idaho. I don't remember. Don't quote me on that. However, he grabbed a woman, threw her down on the concrete in the passageway, grabbed her around her neck, and choked her. And the other ICE agents and people were around watching this, and because they were watching and recording this, they were able to give an account of what happened, and that ICE agent was then arrested later on. I believe it was that same day or the next day, and now he's in jail without any bond. And so before, they were acting without impunity, right? With impunity, and now what's happening is that they are facing a backlash, and the punishment is that they're getting arrested because they are being so egregious with their behavior that they think that they can just go out there and grab anyone. What if they grab someone that's a citizen, toss them up against a wall or on the ground, and that person hits his or her head and passes away, and then wow, they whoopsie-doo, they found out, oh, that was a citizen. All hell would break loose. All hell will break loose. Right? So the possibility of that happening is very high. So they have to be very careful. Let's continue.
Mubashir, and I never expected to be standing in front of all these cameras and microphones. But what happened to me cannot stay quiet. What happened to me was unjust, uncalled for. I was simply on my lunch break. I literally went downstairs from my building. I wasn't even outside for mere seconds before I seen a masked person running at me full speed. He tackled me, pushed me inside the restaurant, like as you can see in the video. I told him I'm a U.S. citizen, what is going on? He didn't seem to care. He dragged me outside through the snow while I was handcuffed, restrained, helpless, and he pushed me to the ground and he put me in a chokehold. That was very uncalled for. I thought I got really hurt, and after that they put me inside the vehicle. And they asked me, we have to verify if you're a U.S. citizen because I believe you're an illegal citizen because you ran from me. But as you can see in the videos that will be released, I'm simply just standing still. I asked them, okay, they said, let me take a picture of you to scan your face to see if you're a U.S. citizen. I declined because how will a picture prove I'm a U.S. citizen? I told them I have my passport. It's in my phone. Can I open it and show you? He declined. I told him, can I give you my name and my date of birth? He declined. So he took me on the other side of Cedar, and they kept me there for 45 minutes. Just asking, we have to scan your face, we have to scan your face. After about a whole hour, they said, okay, we can do your fingerprints on our phones. And
Cedar is a city or a town in Minneapolis. So it's Cedar Riverside neighborhood in Minneapolis. So it took him from one side and it took him to the other side of Cedar. So let's continue.
The fingerprints were not working. So I guess they waited 20 more minutes and they said, we're going to take you into Bishop Henry, all the way in Bloomington. While they were driving me all the way there, they were wasting time. They kept going back in the same highway. I told them, are you guys lost? But they said, yeah, this is our first time taking someone in. And they had the maps out and everything, and they were trying to intimidate me. So after I arrived at the facility, they parked up, the gate was closed, and they made me step outside in the snow while it was snowing, and they said, we have to scan your face or we're not gonna let you inside the car. So I had no choice. I let them scan my face. I was so cold. I guess the face thing, I guess it didn't work. So they finally took me inside the facility. They kept me there for another 20, 30 minutes. I seen other people that were there in holding cells. And at that time I asked for water. They declined my water. And I also asked for medical assistance because my hands were numb and my back was hurting because he pushed me down and he put his whole body weight.
Wow.
He told me we don't have any medical staff at the facility. So I said, can I get water at least? They declined. And I guess finally some lady listened. I told her, yo, can you turn on my phone? I have my passport card. And she finally let me use my phone. I showed her. And she said, okay, we still have to do your fingerprints. I did my fingerprints. And they finally let me go. And I asked them, earlier today you told me you were going to take me back to Cedar where you picked me up at. Are you guys going to still offer me a ride? Because at that point I didn't know if anyone knew where I was because they turned off my phone, they turned off my location. You don't know where you're at. So I asked them, can you take me back to where you picked me up from? They said, no, you have to walk in the snow.
Ooh.
They were being serious. I asked 3 times, they said, no, you're walking. But eventually my parents came and picked me up. And yeah, all I did was step outside as a Somali American and I just got chased by a masked person. The agent then, at one point, he didn't identify himself. He didn't say, ICE, stop. I felt like I was getting assaulted. I was getting kidnapped, and that's exactly what it was. And the way they were treating me, it was inhumane. They dragged me across the road. They slammed me to the ground, choked me. That was uncalled for. There's also more videos of someone came out. They had a copy of my passport. And I told the agent, he has my passport copy. And he said, we don't care, we're still taking you in. And they kept me for 2 hours. And if this is what's happening to a U.S.
That's what I'm talking about.
citizen on camera, imagine what could happen to your loved ones when there's no one around to witness what they're doing. But thankfully,
they don't care because they've been operating with impunity for so long since this raids been going on, so their humanity has been pushed to the side. And somebody and I had a conversation a few weeks ago, and they were saying that a lot of the ICE agents are actually racist people going in there so they can they can play out their fantasies of tossing another group of people around like rag dolls for their own enjoyment. That could be true, and it almost appears that it is true, because if someone is stating that I'm a citizen, look at my passport, I have it on my phone, also have the physical, look at it, and they say I don't care, it's not about what's right. It's not about proving that the person that you grabbed up is a citizen. It's about, and I'm not trying to make this racial, but someone is saying I'm a citizen, I have my documentation, here it is, and they don't want to look. It's not about that. It's about showing that they have the full authority to operate with impunity, and there are of course no consequences. So they'll batter and beat someone up just for their sheer entertainment. All right, let's continue.
My incident was caught on cameras. It was posted all over social media. This shouldn't be happening to anyone. We shouldn't feel targeted just because we're Somalis. Yeah, man, that's not right. That's right. Yes, sir. Good job.
Thank you, Mubashir. And like the mayor, I apologize that this happened to you in my city with people wearing vests that say police. That's embarrassing. But what really gets me is that this is just one story today. And it's a little overwhelming, just the volume of stories we're trying to sift through and figure out what's true and what's not, and kind of what may be happening. Like our mayor has said, we understand federal law enforcement has a job to do. To the extent that federal law enforcement is being precise, conducting targeted operations, and making lawful arrests, we understand that. I have no objection to that, of course. We would just hope that at least from a tactical perspective, things could be well planned beforehand, both for the safety of law enforcement as well as for the safety of people in our community. And that we wouldn't have to deal with so many stories after the fact of what at the very least are just questionable methods. And clearly a use of resources that doesn't appear to be getting a return on investment. You know, I am proud of how the men and women of the Minneapolis Police Department have been handling this. With people in the field last night, with some of our lieutenants this morning that have been dealing with this and monitoring the situation. I wish the public could see how well they are managing such a difficult role. And a volume of which that they're trying to manage and trying to sift through and figure out what's true and what's not, while we're still trying to do our day-to-day responsibilities. That being said, again, random efforts in which individuals who are, including individuals who are American citizens, are being stopped because they appear to be Latino or because they appear to be Somali is wrong. And even, you know, as I'm sure everyone has seen just on social media, and in some of these stories, the things we've seen, just, again, some of the manner and the methods in which these things are happening is just not safe for anyone involved. So, thank you, Mayor.
We'll stand for questions.
Mayor Fry,
Yes.
you're a civil rights attorney by training. Is the conduct we saw in these videos, and are some of the accounts we've seen in recent days, for instance, the woman who was an observer who was taken into custody yesterday, are these violations of Minnesota criminal statutes? Are they violations of civil rights law under federal law? And if so, who do you think can and should take remedial action?
You're asking exactly the right question. The question for those that didn't hear is this a violation of Minnesota law, federal law, constitutional law? While I can't speak to every instance, I'm not aware of all the details from the one that you referenced yesterday. Under any law and under the United States Constitution, you can't tackle somebody because they look Somali without knowing who they are, what their name is, and you can't then detain them for purposes of immigration when they're a complete legal American citizen, when they have tried to provide information showing that they're an American citizen, where you have declined to receive that information, which you saw in this video. What we are seeing again and again is discrimination only to the extent that it applies to certain groups. So they are discriminating only as it applies to, are you a Latino person? Are you a Somali person? Once that's been established, as far as we can tell, there are countless incidents where the arrest, the detention is indiscriminate. You can't do that. You can't do that in Minneapolis. You can't do that anywhere in this country, not because I'm a progressive liberal mayor or whatever. You can't do that because it's against the law.
Talk about the fact that these are being observed and videoed, and I wonder just how the interactions might be different if these ICE Watch folks weren't out there and you were doing this and nobody saw it.
I'm sorry, I didn't quite understand the question. Can you repeat that?
I'm trying to get you to talk about the ICE Watch, the observers,
Oh,
and
sure.
just kind of the way that they might change the dynamic in a situation like this.
So the question was, how might the watchers, those that are videotaping what's going on, might change the dynamic? I mean, you would hope that when you got a video on you, you'd conduct yourself differently. You'd hope that you'd be abiding by the Constitution, whether or not it's being filmed. Look, I'm glad we've got video of this. I'm glad there are people out there taking footage of what is actually happening. I mean, you all, especially who have talked to me locally, know that I'll often try to take a beat. What happened, who was involved, what was the reasoning, why were they detained, was it legitimate? I mean, these are all questions that generally you should ask. We got this thing on footage, though. You're seeing it for yourself. This guy's no criminal. He's an American citizen who has lived here nearly his entire life, who was going to take a lunch break.
Just making sure, so Mubashir has no criminal record that this was related to, right?
Yeah, no.
And can we get like an approximate location where this was?
Yeah, this happened at Cedar and 4th by West Spring Diner. I came downstairs from the building.
Can you step
Yeah, sorry.
please?
Oh, yeah, sorry. Yeah, this happened by 4th and Cedar, by Saga Restaurant and West Spring Diner. I simply came downstairs from upstairs to Walter and Nett's restaurant. That's less than 5 steps. And all I seen was a masked person just running at me, and he just tackled me, pushed me inside the restaurant, and used excessive force on me, as shown in the video and the surveillance footage.
What type of work do you do, Mubashir?
Huh?
What type of work do you do? What do you do for a living?
I don't want to answer that.
Okay.
And how long ago did you move here from Somalia, or were you born here?
I came here when I was about 4 or 5 years old. I was here my whole life.
And you're 20 years old now?
Yep.
Mayor Jacob Fry, we just heard from an immigration attorney who said a September Supreme Court ruling paved the way for racial profiling to be legal by ICE agents. What are your thoughts on that?
So the question was, there's a September Supreme Court ruling that has paved the way for
racial profiling to be legal, for ICE to be able to do that legally.
Yeah, I would need to read the case. I'd need to study up on the law before I answered the question.
Logistically, then, what happens next?
Chief can answer. Chief can answer.
I think that question is accurate, but it doesn't mean it's right.
Okay. Yeah, we'll get back to you on that. I would need to check it out.
Logistically, what happens next then? Is it somebody who's in this position personally can file a lawsuit?
Yeah.
So you continue to stand up and stand beside our neighbors and condemn this? I mean,
You know it's wrong.
So what do you do?
You all know this is wrong. You all know this ain't legal. Well, obviously, we've got work that is happening with litigation that we are filing preemptively. We're working with cities and mayors and attorneys general and governors from around the country to make sure that we're coordinated on a legal strategy. Additionally, individuals that were impacted here directly, like Mubashir, would have standing to they themselves bring suit either individually or as part of a class. And you can get information, or you can submit your own experience on what happened to intake.aclu-mn.org/. And that will help you get connected with people that are doing the work of making sure that these cases are being heard in full. Again, like, I'm not going to stand up here and give you every in and out of the law. Not wearing my attorney hat here, nor am I equipped to do that. What I can tell you is that, come on, the most basic foundation of who we collectively are as Americans and as a people, this is wrong.
Yeah. My name is Liban Hussein. I'm from the Somali community. I'm also a journalism. As a Somali, my kid is going to school. When they see like this brother is a citizen has been arrested. I mean, all citizens like me, they don't want to come outside the house because they're scared. Some of them, they can't even go groceries. So what suggestion are you suggesting them as a mayor?
You know, Liban, you're asking the right question, and I'm going to take a beat before I answer it, because I want to make sure the guidance that I am giving, which candidly is shifting in my mind, is right and is correct. So again, it is a fair question, and I think it's fair to hold me accountable to answer that question. But I have a few ideas in my mind as to how we want to approach this, and we're going to be disseminating information to you directly and others in the coming days.
Mayor Fry, since the June 3rd federal operation that was on Lake Street and other locations, there have been no charges or arrests that have been announced related to the alleged drug trafficking. The only publicly known arrest was of the restaurant owner that was for a charge of illegal reentry. Do you still maintain that that operation was not related to immigration enforcement?
I don't know, Chief, if you got any additional information on it here at this point. I think the first point, which again has been investigated again and again, is that we were not involved in it. We found out about that operation after it was already taking place. We were able to get out of that situation without massive issue or or more violence or people getting substantially hurt, which is obviously something that we were deeply concerned about. And there's been reports about what was indeed recovered in terms of the narcotics. Here's an important point that needs to be made. We do and have, under multiple administrations, worked with federal agents to enforce the law, to prosecute criminals, to prevent gun violence. We've worked with agents, our U.S. Attorney's Office and beyond, to get guns off the streets and to make sure that people who were responsible for gun violence, regardless of their background or ethnicity, are held accountable. We still do that work of making sure that people are safe and perpetrators of violent crime are held accountable every day. That's part of our job. What we are seeing now is not that. Again, what we are seeing now is not that. And that's where this deep concern comes from. And so, look, if federal agents have information about a criminal who has killed somebody with a gun, yeah, we're on board with arresting that individual. What we're not on board with is tackling somebody in the snow who has done nothing wrong. This is so basic. This is so obvious. That everybody is not taking these basic and obvious positions is beyond me.
Mayor, what do you say to those people who watch these videos and just say ICE is just doing their job? What's your response to that?
I'm not sure that some of them know what job they're doing. You know, I mean, these operations are not methodical, planned out, targeted at violent criminals, clearly. This is the kind of deal where you're randomly stopping somebody on the street because they look Somali or Latino.
2 more questions.
Mubashir, did you at any point get the names of any of the officers who took you into custody and who were reviewing your status? And was there ever an apology or an acknowledgement that you shouldn't have been detained to begin with?
No, at any point, none of the agents identified themselves. I only know one agent. His name is Agent Barry.
Barry?
Yeah, and it's the one that put me in a chokehold and slammed me to the ground. And
How do you think his name is spelled? B-E-R-R-Y?
B-A-R-R-Y, I think.
And a first name or last name?
I think that's his first name.
Okay. Did you see that on a badge? Or where
No, they had no badge numbers, no names. The only reason I know that's his name is one of the agents said his name. So that's his first name.
When you were in the jail, did you see a lot of other Somali or Latino people there? What did you see in there?
I seen a lot of Hispanic people. They were in holding cells. I think they were about to be sent to Omaha.
Did they make you like shackle? I've heard of some people.
Yeah, they put me with shackles on the feet. Yeah.
Did they ever say why you were singled out?
No, he said apparently just as you turn around for me, I believe you're an illegal citizen. And I don't know how that made sense. I didn't even see him first. All I did was turn around. When I seen a blacked out car pull up, I just turned around to go back inside the office. And I just seen him behind me just running towards me. He pushes me inside the restaurant, and I thought it was a random person assaulting me or kidnapping me.
So you didn't even get a chance to run if you wanted to. Right?
No, he didn't even say anything. He didn't even say stop, ICE.
Well, that's an important. Can you repeat that again? You didn't even know. You could have been a random person.
I didn't even know who it was. I just seen a person in a mask just come out the car, sprint at me full speed. No word, no nothing. Just push me inside the restaurant.
Last question. So in the video, you can hear him saying, "Why are you running? Why were you running?" So you're saying you were not running, just to be clear.
I turned around because I just seen a random person with a mask coming out the car so fast, running at me. I didn't know what was going on. I thought it was a random person.
So now, tell me how you feel. Do you want to come outside again, or do you want to stay home? What do you feel now? What is in your?
No, I don't even want to come outside no more. Because all I did was try to get some food outside, and I can't even get food without being tackled and put in a chokehold. Yeah,
do you think you might have been mistaken for somebody else that they were after? Or is it...
No, definitely not. I felt targeted. Any Somali he sees, I guess he just wants to tackle them and push them to the ground.
All right, that's
Thanks,
it.
everybody.
Thank you guys.
Good job.
All right, guys. And there you go. I want to pull up some statistics here, right? In regards to in regards to where the Somalians are, and and uh, and based on the spread and what people are saying that they're taking over. So let me pull that up. So let me make this bigger so we can see it. Let me see if I can increase this. Give me a second here. All right, I think we should be able to see that. All right. So according to what I pull up on the search, it says, let me bring this up a little bit more so we can get more of that. It says Somali Americans have built vibrant communities in let me start over. Somali Americans have built vital communities and are integrated into civil and economic life across several U.S. states, particularly in Minnesota, but they have not taken over any areas. Minnesota is home to the largest Somali population in the United States, with an estimated 80,000 to 100,000 people of Somali descent, most of those whom are U.S. citizens or legal permanent residents who arrived as refugees in the 1990s. The Cedar River neighborhood in Minneapolis, sometimes nicknamed Little Mogadishu, is a major cultural and commercial hub for the community. Featuring numerous Somali-owned businesses, mosaics, and cultural center. Beyond Minnesota, other U.S. metropolitan area include notable Somali American population include Columbus, Ohio, Seattle, San Diego, Washington, D.C. area, Atlanta, Phoenix, Portland, Oregon, Nashville, Boston, Lewiston, Maine. Members of the Somali American community have become significant political forces, with individuals holding seats in city councils, in the in the state legislatures, and the U.S. Congress, such as Representative Ilhan Omar. They are also active in various professionals, including healthcare, education, business, and tech. The characterization of them taking over is often tied to political rhetoric and recent controversies surrounding federal immigration operations and local fraud investigation involving a few individuals, which local officials and community leaders have condemned as attempts to target the entire community. All right, so that's what I pulled up, and that's what is said. So they're saying that they are have not taken over according to what is been propagandized. All right, so I want to go back to the original video that I play, the warning that was sent to Trump, right? And let that guy let's hear it again, and then you guys can see hear for yourself, right? So let me unmute this.
Yes, he may never witness that.
Let me start this over.
My biggest fear in life is that this man may never witness our full takeover. Yes, he may never witness that. Witness our partial takeover, our little success in America. And he is the reason actually I know that the community in America is thriving. He is how I know. It's like, he's how we measure our progress. If he doesn't tweet, somebody messed up. I know it. Somebody fucked up the plan. If he tweets, I know. I know. We're doing the right things. Yes. That's how I know.
Wow.
So, he's old and sick, I know. He may not witness our full takeover. But I promise you that his sons will witness. Just like him. We came to exist in this country. See? The land of free men. The land of opportunities. And we're here. Yes. And we're not leaving, actually. We're not going back. What do you mean go back? You should go back first. You see? If you come first, you go first. See? Just like you. Tell me how you own this land. Explain to the world how this land became your land. Tell the world.
You hear that, folks? You heard that for yourself, right? You heard that for yourself. And on that note, it's kind of funny, but it's not. On that note, I will say to you, thank you for watching. I appreciate you. One, love and respect. And remember, always question everything, because if you don't, you may fall for anything. Right? You may fall for anything. So remember to question everything. And on that note, my friends, it's what time is it here in the East Coast? We've been going for a little over an hour, almost an hour and 20 minutes. And it's on the East Coast here. It's so what time? 11:19. Wow. 11:19. So thank you guys. I appreciate you. You've been wonderful. All right. Let me find something to close this out. And let's